Good Erev Shabbos to everybody. Great to be with you on this rainy day here in Silver Spring, Maryland. Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Parshas Achremos Kedoshim. I'd like to discuss two words only in this week's Parsha, the second pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim. Kadosh Baruch Hu charges us, Kedoshim Tiyu. You should be holy. And of course the word holy, Kadosh, is very much part of our vernacular, part of our liturgy. Kadosh, Kaddish, Kedusha is full of words in our tefillah throughout the Nevi'im and Ksuvim. Holiness, sanctity, Kedusha is very much something that we work with, we understand. We use those words throughout our daily tefillos and certainly in everything that we learn. But what is Kedusha? Kedusha seems to be something foreign, something that is impossible to reach, to attain. Sanctity, holiness seems to be something that's limited to the Malachim or Kedoshei Elyon or Kadosh Yisrael. But how are we to fulfill this charge that the pasuk tells us? Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, tell the Jewish people, Kedoshim Tiyu, you should be holy. The fact that we are charged to be Kedoshim means that we could attain a level of sanctity and a level of Kedusha. I'd like today to share with you four different explanations, two in the Rishonim, two in the Achronim, as to how we are able to fulfill mitzvah of Kedoshim Tiyu, and more than that, what does it mean to be a Kadosh, and how do we find Kedusha? The first, of course, is the commentary of Rashi. Rashi, in this opening pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim, tells us that Kedusha is not what you think, but rather have a prushim min harayos min avera. A kadosh, somebody who's holy, is one who abstains from illicit relationships, one who abstains and stays away from transgression and from sin. Shekol makom shatamotze geder erva atamotze kedusha. And Rashi cites various psukim showing that any time the word erva, or relationships that are forbidden or permissible, the next word that's used is kadosh. And that's the juxtaposition between Parshas Achremos and Kedoshim. Achremos is full of the forbidden relationships, the transgressions, the Isuri Arayos. And the next pasuk, the opening pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim, tells us Kedoshim Tiyu. Thus Rashi understands that the way to maintain and to reach a level of Kedusha is not by climbing high, is not by being sanctified in a lofty way, but it's rather by fulfilling and making sure not to transgress any prohibited isurim that the Torah calls for. Anytime I'm not over on a lav, anytime I abstain from doing something that I'm not supposed to, every lav that I don't transgress, I am a kadosh. Thus, according to Rashi, abstaining from prohibitions, abstaining from transgressions, staying away from averos, that is kedusha, and that's how a Jew is able to pine and to reach a state of kedusha and to fulfill the pasuk of Kedoshim Tiyu. The Ramban here on the Rashi famously argues and says it can't be. If simply abstaining from prohibitions and not transgressing averos is the definition of a kadosh, that means a person, and I quote you, the Ramban, potentially could be a bal taiva and could be shituf bezima, can be totally involved in inappropriate relations. Oh, nashim harbes, you could be married to hundreds and hundreds of wives. Uyos besoy v'yayin bazolei basu, you could be drinking wine and eating meat to your heart's desire. And can be involved in the most explicit and inappropriate activities. The Torah never said that I can't marry hundreds of wives. The Torah said Torah never said that I can't drink wine and beer and eat meat all day. That the Torah never said. So potentially a person can do these things and be what the Ramban famously quotes, a novel Bereshus HaTorah, a denigrate with the license of the Torah. Because if Rashi is correct, says the Ramban, I could be doing everything right by abstaining from prohibited things, and I won't transgress any lav. But I could still be involved in a life of hedonism, in a life of pleasure seeking, in a life of physicality, and I'll still be called a kadosh. Thus the Ramban says that can't be the definition of Kedusha, because then I'm a novel Bereshus HaTorah, I'm a denigrate. I could be drinking beer and drinking wine and eating meat and being boiled bilos asuros throughout the day and throughout the night, and I could be called a kadosh. Thus says the Ramban, according to the Gemara in Yevamos Tav Chaf Mabez, a kadosh is somebody who is kadesh atzmecha b'mutar lach. You sanctify yourself within the things that are permitted, meaning to live a life of moderacy and equilibrium and balance, and not even engaging in those things that are permitted is what's called a kadosh. As opposed to Rashi, who understands that Kedusha is abstaining from that which is prohibited, the Ramban says it's abstaining from that which is permitted. It's true I could order 10 steaks a day, and I could have in-house delivery, and I could watch TV and movies and get involved in the most base physical attributes and existence throughout the course of the day and the life. But says the Ramban, that's not Kedusha. That's a naval b'rashus Torah. That's a denigrate in the life of the Torah and license of the Torah. And therefore, says the Ramban, the way to attain Kedusha is even when something is permitted, even when I'm able to eat, even when I'm able to drink, even though I can do multiple things in the Torah, never said it's prohibited, stay away from them. Live a life of moderacy. Live a life of balance, of equilibrium, and even stay away from some things that are permitted. That is Kedusha. Today I don't want to focus on the Rashi or the Ramban, Gedolei Rishonim, whose definition of Kedusha is certainly most important, but I'd like to take a look at the pshatim of two great achronim and how they understand Kedusha. The first is the Ramchal, Ramosha Chaim Luzzatto, the great Italian rabbi, philosopher, Kabbalist, very well-known author, and in his magnum opus, the Sefer Mesilas Yesharim, the end of the 26th chapter, Per Chavav, of Mesilas Yesharim, the Ramchal defines Kedusha as follows. Hine, ha'ish hamiskadesh b'kedushas baro, a man who is ready to sanctify himself and be a kadosh, afilu ma'asav agashmiyim chozrim lios inyane kedusha mamish. Kedusha, according to the Ramchal, and this is such a Jewish concept, is that no, we don't abstain from that which is necessarily prohibited, and we don't just abstain from that which is permitted, but rather, says the Ramchal, we engage in physicality, we do eat, we do drink, we do engage in family life, but rather Kedusha is taking the physical and uplifting it. That is a kadosh, and that is Kedusha, and that's the mitzvah Kedoshim too, as articulated in this week's Parsha. So much so, says the Ramchal, and then the Perek Chavav, that individual, when he engages in physical behavior, two things could happen. Either you become more mundane and more physical, or that physicality which you engage in becomes more holy and you become holier. The Kadosh is able to sanctify the physical and raise the chefza, raise the physicality that you're engaging in and making it holy. As opposed to somebody who engages in physical behavior becomes sluggish and becomes lowly and becomes more physical and less spiritual. When I engage in something that's physical, says the Ramchal, that I raise my status, I become holier. And thus Kedusha, according to the Ramchal, which is a very, very high level, but it's something we can reach when we eat, when we drink, when we engage in physical activity. We don't become overwhelmed by physicality, but rather we're engaged in the davar gashmi, and we raise it, we live it. And this is such a Jewish idea and Jewish concept. And that's the idea of a bias, and that's the idea of a home, and that's the idea of a Jewish house, and a Jewish marriage, and Jewish relationships, and everything that we engage in. I hope you're sitting. I'm sitting because I'm about to share with you a citation from R Shimon Shkop. A number of you sent it to me, and I thank you for referring this statement to me from R Hirsch. It's found in the author's introduction to Chorev, Diane Grunfeld. And R Hirsch says and writes something about 150 years ago, which is somewhat prophetic to the times that we're living in now, and it speaks to the Ramchal's idea, and it talks about Kedusha, but it speaks to each and every single one of us and all of Klal Yisrael in the situation that we find ourselves in. And please listen closely to the holy words of R Shimon Shkop, and I quote, "If I had the power, I would provisionally close all synagogues for 100 years. Do not tremble at the thought of it. What would happen? Jews and Jewesses without synagogues, desiring to remain such, would be forced to concentrate on a Jewish life and a Jewish home. The Jewish officials connected with the synagogue would have to look to the only opportunity now open to them, to teach young and old how to live a Jewish life and how to build a Jewish home. All synagogues closed by Jewish hands would constitute the strongest protest against the abandonment of the Torah in home and life." Wow. Rav Hirsch is speaking to each and every single one of us now, and Rav Hirsch is speaking to Kedusha. Often we think that Kedusha is something that's in the Beis Medrash. Kedusha is something that's in the Beis HaKnesses. Kedusha is something that's in the schools and in the shuls, but when we get home, that's not Kedusha. Adarabba, the opposite is true, says Rav Hirsch, and says the Ramchal. Kedusha is babayis, and thus the Mishkan is situated in Olam Hazeh. The Beis HaMikdash is situated in this world. And Har Sinai and Matan Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu was Yored al Har Sinai. Kadosh Baruch Hu came to Olam Hazeh, as the Midrash says, Iker Shechina B'Tachtonim. Kadosh Baruch Hu is here with us in this world. We're not supposed to pine and to leave and to run to the deserts and to go to faraway lands and countries to create a relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu away from our family life. But it's dafk in the home, not in the shul, not in the school, not in the base medrash. Kedusha is something that we create, that we make, that we concretize, and that we formalize. That's what's happening, and that's Kedusha, and that's something we have to pine to, and that's the Pasuk Kedoshim to you. But that's not it. I found more than that. Not only in Rav Hirsch, but 1,000 years earlier, Rabbeinu Yonah, in his Perush HaMeseches Brachos, Daf Gimel and Beis, in the Daf Harif, quoting a Gemara in Meseches Brachos, Kol Koveya Makom L'Sfilaso. Elokei Avram Yebe'ezro, the Gemara tells us that a person should have a Makom Kavua, it's Paskin in Shulchan Aruch, asks Rabbeinu Yonah, why? Why do I have to sit in a particular seat? Sometimes somebody tells, don't sit in my seat, it's a Makom Kavua. Why? The whole Beis HaKnesses is Kadosh. The whole shul is sanctified with Kedusha. Why do I have to sit in the same place, the same makom every single time Shachris Mincha Marv, so much so that people get upset? You're in my makom kavua. Says the Rabbeinu Yonah, you have it all wrong. And listen, and I quote, Shekovea makom l'tfilaso is not talking about a shul, it's talking about beveso. It's in your house. Kol kovea makom l'tfilaso l'kei Avram Bezo is talking about in your home. You want a makom kavua, it's in your house. That's where you should be makbid. That's where you should be meticulous. To daven in the same place. There are times where you're not going to be able to go to shul and daven as individuals or as a community, or as a nation, as klali, so we can't go to shul. Mispalo bebeisa, we have to daven in our homes. And you should set aside a place that's specific, that's unique to daven in that location, in that makom in your home. And continues the Rabbeinu Yonah and quotes the Yerushalmi, who says that somebody who's kovei makom l'tfilaso bebeso, he kifa mechitzo shel barzel, you'll be protected with a mechitz of iron, your home won't be touched. You won't be punished. You won't be hurt. Makom tefila bebeso. That, says Rabbeinu Yonah, is where you're going to be holy. And that's where the Kedusha takes place. And if you take a look at the Sfas Emes here in his Chidushim to Meseches Brachos, he adds, and I quote, K'mo sheyesh zchus hitztarfus harabim. Just like there's a certain sense of merit that a community has when we join together. If you daven in the same place over and over again, Shachris, Mincha, Maariv, daily, weekly, monthly, in the same place in your home, in your makom mikdash, Chal ha'aras hakedusha sham, there'll be sanctity that rests in that spot, in that place. And thus says the Sfas Emes, that's the pshat in the Gemara. The Gemara says, Kol hakovei makom l'tfilaso l'kei Avraham be'ezra. Why Avram? Why not Yitzchak? Why not Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, David, Shlomo, Yosef? Oh, what's Avram? Says the Sfas Emes, Avram was a yachid. Avram davened by himself. He didn't have a community. He didn't have a family. He didn't have a shul. He didn't have a beis knesses. He davened by himself. Levad, he was a yachid. Kol olam kul be'ever echad, and Avram was be'ever acher. And Elokei Avram be'ezra, the father of Avram, Avinu shebashmayim, just like he was with Avram, he will be with us because we are davening by ourselves. I can tell you personally, I have a place in my house where I daven 3 times a day, the same place every single day, and I tell you now, and in all sincerity, that makom, that place has changed. It's not the same space anymore. I feel when I walk there, when I get ready for Shacharis or for Mincha or for Mar, that space has transformed. It's not just a place in my house anymore. It's not just a corner. But the chair and the table and the shtender and the room is a different aura about it. And that's what the Gemara says. That's Rabbeinu Yonah. And that's the Sfas Emes. That's what Rav Hirsch means. It's the house, it's the home, it's the Ramchal, it's Kedusha. That's what Kedoshim Tiyu means, that there's a transformation of the guf, of the person, of the gavra is different. My physical being has changed, has been transformed, and is totally different. That's what they're talking about, and that's Kedusha. That's the Ramchal's definition of Kedoshim Tiyu. But I don't want to stop there. There's a 4th definition. R Shimon Shkop, in his classic Shariyosh, R Shimon Shkop was the great pre-war European Rosh Yeshiva. First was in Telz, later as Rosh Yeshiva of Grodno, died in 1939. And in his Hakadama to Shariyosher, Reb Shimon quotes the Medrash on this pasuk Kedoshim to you, and I quote the Medrash directly. Yachol Kamoni, you think that you could be like me, holy like me? The pasuk says Kedoshim to you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Yachol Kamoni, do I even entertain? Is it possible that you could be like me? Talmud Lomer ki kadosh ani. No, you can't be like me. Ki kadosh ani, I am holy. But there's a havamina, there's an a priori thought in the Medrash, Yachol Kamoni, you could be kadosh like me. That means there's a dimyan. There's a possibility that man and God can also share Kedusha, share sanctity. Kamash malan, ki kadosh ani, kedushasi lamala mi kedushaskam. My Kedusha, Kadosh Baruch Hu, is greater than any of anybody in Klal Yisrael. But Yachol Kamoni means that there's a tzad hashava, there's a parallel, there's a dimyan. There's a possibility that man and God can be just as equal. Asks Reb Shimon, if Rashi, the Ramchal, and the Ramban are right in their definition of Kedusha, this Medrash doesn't make sense. Because according to Rashi, it's abstaining from that which is prohibited. According to the Ramban, it's abstaining from that which is permitted. According to the Ramchal, it's sanctifying the physical. Those things have nothing to do with God. God doesn't need to abstain from the prohibited. God doesn't abstain from the permitted. God doesn't raise his physicality. God is not physical. God is kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. So what's the pshat in the Medrash, and how does that work with Rashi, the Ramban, or the Ramchal? That's Reb Shimon's question. And Reb Shimon says it can't be like Rashi. It can't be like the Ramban, and it can't be like the Ramchal, because there has to be a common denominator between Kedushas Atzmo and Kedushas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And according to Rashi, the Ramban, and the Ramchal, it doesn't work. Therefore, says Reb Shimon, there has to be a sense of sanctity of Kedusha that's similar to us and to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there's only one place, says Reb Shimon, where man and God share a common denominator, and I quote the holy words of Reb Shimon Shkop. Says Reb Shimon, it seems, according to my humble opinion, shemitzvazu, the mitzvah of Kedoshim to you, kol yisod v'shoresh magamas tachlis chayenu. It finds within itself the source of man's ultimate purpose in this world. Shiu kol avodoseinu v'amalenu tamid mukdoshim letovas haklal. You know where man and God have a similarity? That we're meitivim. Mahu chanun afatati achanun. Mahu mevaker cholim menachem avelim. So too we can be menachem avel mevaker cholim. The common denominator between man and God is that we, mishteshio dei, could be like God. Just like God is a giver, just like God is benevolent, just like God is philanthropic, we too can be philanthropic, benevolent, merciful, kind, sharing, inspirational to other people. That's Kedusha, says Reb Shimon. Kedusha means taking care of somebody else, looking after somebody else, clothing somebody else, feeding somebody else. That a person shouldn't take any pleasure in anything, that I am unable to at least help somebody else with it. If I benefit, I have to make sure somebody else benefits. If I have something, I want to make sure somebody else has it also. If I have this, that, or the other thing, whatever it is in the physical world, let me share a little bit with you. That's Kedusha. Ki kadosh ani, says the Medrash, and explains that Shimon kedushasi lemala mi kedushaskam, and the mitzvah of Kedoshim too means that I can be like God in a way that just like a Kadosh Baruch Hu is native and shares and gives, so too I can do that. And if I share, if I'm philanthropic, if I'm benevolent, if I care, if I look out for another person, be it a neighbor, a friend, a family member, then I'm a kadosh. And this famously is what the son of Reb Chaim Volozhiner in his Hakdama to Nefesh HaChaim says about his father, Reb Chaim Volozhin. V'kol haya devaro elai tamid. Reb Chaim Volozhin's son said, my father, Reb Chaim Volozhin, the primary disciple of the Vilna Gaon, said to him all the time, Shizekol ha'adam lo la'atzmo nivra. Man wasn't created for himself. Rak lahoil la'achrini kechol asher yimtza b'kocho la'asos. I'm here to help another person with every ounce of energy that I have. My sole existence in creation for coming to this world is to help somebody else. That's Kedusha. Like the brother of the Gaon, Reb Avram, in his end of his Sefer Malas HaTorah, explains that if a person was just put in this world to study Torah, it would have been much better if I would have remained a fetus and stayed in the embryo, because there I was zocheh to learn Torah from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I was learning with the Borei Olam. Why did I come to this world? If it was just to learn Torah, I should have stayed in the fetus in the embryo. Says Reb Avram, Achi Hagon, that it must be that I was brought here to help somebody else. Because if it's just to learn, just to study for myself, I should have stayed as a fetus in the embryo. Noachli. It would have been much better for me. My own growth would have been much better there. I would have been much closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu there. Kamash Malon, we're in this world to help somebody else and to share whatever we have with that other person. That's Kedusha. That's Kedoshim to you. There's no question that in this last kufa, these last several weeks and months, the amount of chesed, the amount of care, concern, sharing, deliveries, pickups, calls that I get from people. How can I help? What can I do? Does this person need money? Can I do a delivery, a pickup? Can I share something with somebody? What can I do to help the Bikur Cholim? What can I do to help Yad Yehuda? What can I help to help organizations within our community, our own website, Chesed organization? There's so much good happening. Each of you are Kedoshim. You're fulfilling the mitzvah of Kedoshim to you according to Reb Shimon and the Pshat and the Medrash. Ki Kadosh Ani, just like a Kadosh Baruch Hu is benevolent, kind, caring, and looking out, that's what we do. Thus, according to the Ramchal and Reb Shimon, they're two halves of the same coin. Kedusha means raising the physical, making myself holier by engaging in the physical world and uplifting it. But I can't just stop there. I can't just look out for myself. Because then the Kedusha is limited only to my cheftza, to my gavra, to my being. And thus Reb Shimon says that the ultimate Kedusha is look out for the other person. Look out for the person who can't take care of himself or herself. Be kind, pick up the phone, write an email, text, look out, knock on the door, see what I can do to help somebody else. This is the way we're going to get through this tkufa together, looking out for each other, like Reb Shimon says, like Reb Chaim Volozhin told his son. That's why man is placed in this world, lehetiv lezulaso. We're not born, created for ourselves. That's Gan Eden. That's Olam Haba. That's the womb, that's the embryo. That's an otherworldly existence of Mein Olam Haba, but this world is a world where we help. May it be the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that if we're able to use the home, the bias that we're confined within now, and use that place to be male our tefillah, and to raise our status of Kedoshim, like Reb Shimshon Hirsch says, like Rabbeinu Yonah says, like the Sfas Emes says, then we are Kedoshim in our own homes. Not necessarily in shul, not necessarily in school, in yeshiva, in cheder, or wherever we are on the outside. But here is where we define ourselves. The home is the place that we have to uplift, to sanctify, to be mekadesh. That's Kedushas HaBayis and that's Kedushas HaGuf. Lekadesh is to sanctify something, to make it unique. That's one element of Kedusha in this specific time and in this specific situation, and of course always. But on top of that, don't just suffice that our home, our makom kavua, our own private room and beis medrash becomes kadosh, but allow that to expand to others, to share, to teach, to talk, to call, to email, to write, to look out, and to make sure that other people are being cared for. That's Kedoshim to you as well. Kadosh Baruch Hu should send us a geula, should send us that we ultimate Kedusha, that we be zocheh to see Kedusha HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chveodo v'atzmo, and may we be zocheh to a wonderful Shabbos, to a good Shabbos, continue raising ourselves day to day during the Meis Sfiras HaOmer. Good Shabbos to everybody.